Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episodes where we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Media Boat Podcast. Today is July the 16th, 2024. This is episode 444 of them, folks. And yeah, let's get into it.
Or it could be episode 510, just depending on how you're counting. But let's get into let's get to the show docket here, where we start with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And at number one, the hottest song in the land is Canadian Tears by Kendrick Lamar.
I don't think that's the name of that song.
Is it not?
No.
Okay. Drake's Defeat by Kendrick Lamar.
You're getting closer.
Okay, let's see here. Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
And coming in at number two is a bar song, Tipsy by Shaboozey. At three, I Had Some Help by Morgan Wallen, because he got dragged up here by Post Malone. At four, $1 Million Baby by Tommy Richmond. And rounding out your top five, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter.
Yep. Not like us getting a boost for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but
Music video
otherwise,
dropped. That's why. At
huh?
4th of July. So
Oh,
that's that from that.
yeah.
As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200 at number one and setting a record, tying a record, The Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift. This is tying the record for longest album at number one. I believe it's Stevie Wonder album, I want to say, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yes, Songs in the Key of Life. If it goes one more week, which right now it doesn't look like it will, but if it does go one more week, we'll break that record.
So maybe, I don't know whose fingers crossed for that, but maybe one more week. At number two, The Great American Bar Scene by Zach Bryan. No longer making a self-debut album or self-titled album. Coming in at three, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. At four, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. And then rounding out your top five, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chappelle Roan. Chapel
Chapel,
Roan.
Chapel Room. We went over this last week. So yeah, your
Yes.
albums are the same except for Zach Bryan sneaking in there at number two. Just a brief note, I did listen to, let's say, 80% of that Zach Bryan record. Wow, is it long? And the only thing I have to say about it is, hey, he upped his budget for recording technology. It actually sounds better this time, which was my biggest complaint about the last record. Um, However, it's pretty much just the same, which is not a bad thing. He's a talented guy. Man, does he want to be Bruce Springsteen so bad. Oh, also, Bruce Springsteen shows up on this record. But yeah, if you like Zach Bryan and the kind of music he makes, I think you're going to like this. It's just a lot of it. It's over an hour of it. We'll get to something
Oh,
else too today that's over an hour and is excruciating. But we'll talk about that in the thoughts.
oof. Over an hour. Oof. All right. Especially if you're not having a good time. Oof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, we'll get to something else
Yeah, we'll get
just
there.
like that.
But if you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases, starting with Bando Stone and The New World by Donald Glover.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Dong Lover himself,
aka.
Childish Gambino. We also have, I think this coincides with the release of his Netflix film.
I believe so. I believe that was the plan the whole time.
I
Also
believe it's on
notable,
Netflix.
yeah, also notable, this is, according to him, the last record he will release under the Childish Gambino name. So I guess there's that.
There's probably that too. We also have Equals One by Deep Purple.
Yes, that Deep Purple.
King of the Mischievous South, Volume 2 by Denzel Curry. We also have Dr. Dog by Dr. Dog. Um, I Love You So Fucking Much by Glass Animals. Yes,
Yes.
those glass animals. We also have All Hail by Los Campesinos. And lastly, Muse, the album title, not the band, by Jimin, the band, not the album title.
No, Jimin, the artist, who is a member of BTS. This is his solo record.
Wait, isn't that J Hop? Or is that someone else?
That's a different guy.
Oh,
No, Jimin is a member of BTS.
okay. If you say so. All right. Let's get into the music news. And we start with an uneventful weekend
Yeah,
happening
nothing
in
happened. Nobody reacted to it. Nobody said anything weird or, it was completely normal, uneventful.
ex-
Well,
except down under in Australia, where Jack Black uh, immediately announced that Tenacious D would be canceling its current tour amid blowback against band partner Kyle Gass, who made a controversial comment at the band's concert in Australia on July 14th. Um, Mr. Black presented Mr. Gass on stage to celebrate Mr. Gass's 64th birthday. And when Mr. Black then asked Mr. Gass to make a wish, Gass responded with, "Don't miss next time," uh, which got reaction from the crowd. And then Jack Black did not like that. Quote, "I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I am grateful for the fans for their support and understanding." End quote.
okay. So we're not a political podcast, but what I will say is, if in case you have been living under a rock, what this is referring to is the shooting that occurred at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. Shots were fired. Two members of the audience did die. The killer also has died, has killed himself. And then the presidential nominee, Donald Trump, was grazed by a bullet in his left ear. Right ear? Right ear.
Right ear.
Right
He
ear.
was looking right, so right ear.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it seems like, yeah, reactions have been mixed. My opinion about all this and why I'm not exactly, I don't exactly side with Gass's statement here. I also don't exactly side with Jack Black's decision here, because where I'm kind of at is I feel like the focus is in the wrong place. We should be really talking about, this guy had an AR-15 that he obtained from his parents. Like, how did that happen? Two, where was some sort of plan about, like, obvious in places where shooters could potentially be on tops of buildings? There's a lot of questions I think are beyond just like, should we be making jokes about this or not? I don't think that should be the focus. I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. The guns are the problem here. Like, what happened? There was a huge like lapse in security and safety and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the way the conversation has been sideswept is just baffling to me. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's focus in. Like we can talk about what happened in a more sense, like in a way that makes sense and can actually move forward instead of just dwelling on what is the right thing to say and what is the wrong thing to say. Um, I think it's especially weird when you consider that these guys are famous for having a band that's just a comedy band that's just they say stupid stuff and that's their bit. It is a weird reaction, especially for Jack Black, who prior to the immense stardom probably would have said similar things, honestly, and in his music and on a stage. So yeah, I don't know. It's mixed. Obviously, no one should shoot at anybody ever, is my opinion. Like, not to mince words, but it's stupid. And yeah, but then, that's I get why it's a complicated thing. I get why people are talking about it, and I get why people would be, unsure how to react to it and are thus making jokes about it. So, but still, to be caught up in that quagmire and to potentially lose Tenacious D from it does kind of suck. Because yeah, they've been around forever, man. Um, yeah.
They were scheduled to have a concert here in the US, a Rock the Vote concert, which is
Hmm.
no longer,
Hmm.
at least according to this, no longer occurring,
No, it wouldn't,
which
I
was
guess.
just it's concert to get people to sign up to vote. Apolitical
Yeah.
concert, not picking sides, not meant to pick sides, just to register to vote.
Yeah, which is classic. I mean, they've been doing bands have been and other artists have been doing that for decades now.
Mhm.
But yeah, won't happen anymore because Jack Black doesn't even sound like he wants to work with Kyle Gass anymore, which is yeah, it's worrying. They were best friends. They were inseparable. They had been doing going at this for years. Part of me wants to say, is this because of Jack Black's newfound family like relevance? Like he goes into one Mario Brothers movie and all of a sudden he has to be looking at his image constantly. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Nintendo money speaks louder than words.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's just unfortunate to see something like this that is avoidable break up a band like this and friends like this. So yeah, just lame. All of it is
Yep.
lame. All across the board, all of it.
All right. Well, should we continue that sentiment into our thoughts?
Yeah, speaking of lame.
We both listened to an album,
So
an
yeah,
hour-long album.
I wasn't going to do this, by the way. I had planned on just, listening to your take on it, getting your opinion, because usually that's what I do with albums by Eminem, is I let you take the bait and I just don't even bother.
Yes.
This time though, I had some time today and I was just like, fine, I gotta see why he chose to do this. Why? And you know what? By the end of it, I still don't know that answer. I still am looking for the answer to that question because I did not get a satisfying answer from the record itself.
Well, because you're asking two questions. One is, why did Eminem make this album? And the
Mm-hmm.
other question you're asking is, why did I decide to listen to this album?
Yeah, and two valid, very valid questions about the death of Slim Shady, parentheses, coup de grace,
Or Cup to Grace, if you're,
which Eminem has touted as a concept album, or as on Twitter for some reason he said a conceptual album, which I guess is the same thing, but whatever.
I think
Um,
you just trying to tell people to not play it in shuffle.
right, don't
Do
shuffle
not
this
play these
thing.
songs out of order. You're supposed to play it front to back.
And the idea, the concept behind it being, what if his late 90s, early 2000s persona, Slim Shady, came back, somehow was catapulted into 2024, and Eminem had to do something about it, that he had to somehow control and decide to ultimately do in his alter ego because of the mischief he was causing. That's basically the concept here. And the songs chronologically do account these events and do end up in a climactic moment where he does, as the name of the album implies, kill Slim Shady. Allegedly, sort of. And yeah, but it's complicated. It's more complicated than that somehow.
It's it. I don't know. Does he kill him? I mean, it's
Yeah.
implied in the within it that he kills him, but is it also just I'm just going to stuff you in a box until maybe later if I ever need to pull you out?
And that's the tricky thing that's the tricky line that this record is walking. Eminem needs to do two things. He needs to establish he is aware that the Slim Shady persona was problematic, said some messed up shit, and he kind of needs to apologize for it. That's one. And then two, also admit, yes, but also he is me, I am him. We are the same, and I mess up sometimes, and I am not making just an excuse for myself. I am also a father, I'm also a family man, and I also need to establish that I am afraid of death and what it will accomplish. And so I don't really want to kill myself because of the baggage that I would leave behind. And so it's like it's this album that tries to do both of these things. It tries to account for his past sins, quote unquote, and then also say that he's a modern guy with modern sensibilities that has a lot to lose, basically, and that and yet this is the same person and there's two sides of the same coin. But man, is it a messy thing. And man, is it a lot of this, a lot of the lyrics here blur the line between both of those personas. Sometimes it's unclear who's saying who. Sometimes it's like, well, yeah, but this is the same guy. And is he really apologizing? And has he really moved past these things if he wanted to make this record in the first place? A lot of those questions are unanswered, and a lot of it it ends up just being kind of a messy, muddy pool of a record.
It it's kind of important that the first song released as a single for off this album was Houdini, because even though it's like 10 or 12 songs into this record, it's basically what the whole record is
Yeah.
about, which is
Yeah.
the dual personas, like you said. But if you're not going to listen that far, if you're only going to listen to the first one or two tracks, you're like, wait, is
Yeah.
this even like, is this just him reverting back to Slim Shady? Or is it him using the Slim Shady persona
Yeah.
just to say all these things? Because
Honestly,
we've
yeah.
talked about that before, not just in music, but in movies and TV shows where directors and writers will purposely write controversial things, but then use it as a guise of a mask of, whoa, well, I'm not saying it. This character, this
Yeah.
persona is saying it. We've seen that a lot recently with Sacha Baron Cohen's
Yeah.
Borat 2. Uh, we saw it even with Quentin Tarantino and uh, not, well, one, Inglorious Bastards,
Mhm.
but also to Django Unchained. And so you have to wonder, like, do people choose these roles to use it as a mask to say what they think, or to like experiment and play with it under the guise of a character? Or is this how they always feel and they just using this as a way, as an outlet, a
Yeah.
creative outlet that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get away with?
Yeah, and I think that's an especially interesting question here. And I think the thing is, though, is that Eminem is aware of that question because he mentions that specific duality several times on this record. He
Hmm.
basically straight up says, like, I created the persona of Slim Shady, or actually, I think Slim Shady says in the Slim Shady character, again, it's just all Eminem,
Yeah.
that he was created to say the things that, quote, he didn't have the balls to say himself, unquote. So he's aware that he did use it as a crutch. But the question is
Right.
he
He's
does
aware because
still,
he says it in there that he
yeah,
used it as a way to attack the bullies to
right.
get back at them.
But is he still using it as a crutch? And
Right.
will anything change by the fact that he's metaphorically killed his alter ego here? And that's where I kind of get the concept gets lost to me because this doesn't necessarily stop anything. This doesn't change anything about him. In fact, after that quote killing unquote happens, the album keeps going. And it's not like the weird stuff stops. It's like there's still enough of him being like saying some questionable shit that is still, it feels like that's no, that is just inextricable from him. He is addicted, quote unquote, as he likes to say in an early song on the album, to this top of his head, like stream of consciousness saying whatever he wants to persona. I think Slim Shady is not a character. It is just him, and that he eventually realizes this, but also, and this is getting at the biggest problem that I have with this. I just don't understand why he thinks that this is a big deal. What I mean by that is when you think about like rappers especially, but like artists in general, artists such as Eminem, when they get to a certain period of their career, they have to address their legacy. They have to address who they've become, like this myth making, that they've created over the course of their career. Like you see Jay Z do it constantly. It's like he retired, then he unretired, and then he retired again. Like he made so many albums about himself and about this legacy that he left behind that it almost has become a joke. Now Jay Z can't put out an album without being about being Jay Z. And I think Eminem has this problem too. It's that he's gotten so far, all he's writing about is writing about himself. And the problem is then when you do that, I think you realize that your legacy is over and you're not creating a continued legacy. If you ask the average Gen Z person, who's apparently a crowd that Eminem thinks a lot about, according to this record, which is weird, they don't care about Eminem. No 20-year-old right now is going to be like, oh, hell yeah, I love the new Eminem record. No, they're not thinking about it because they're not listening to him and they don't care. If anything, they know Eminem as this legacy rapper who made rap music a long time ago, who is one of the most streamed artists of all time, and maybe their dad liked him. That's all they know. So it's weird to me. Well, another thing is like Eminem had the legacy. It's literally 8 Mile. He made a movie about himself, about his own story. If you want to know who Eminem is and the story of Eminem, you just watch 8 Mile and listen to Lose Yourself. That's all you need. After that, it was gravy. It was a victory lap over victory lap over victory lap. He was done. And I don't get that but
Yeah,
at the same time, yeah, I mean, more or
he
less.
wasn't done. Like in that early 2000 2010 period, he had
Mm,
those three albums: the Relapse, Recovery, and
yes.
Revival.
But again, they were about being himself at that point. As soon as
Yeah.
you start writing about yourself, I think you're telling yourself that you're like, okay, that was it. I mean, he literally named a record Encore. He literally named a record Recovery. All these things and relapse. Like he just kept writing about returning or leaving and returning again. And it's never stopped. He wrote a single, like more recent album was literally supposed to be a sequel to his most popular album. You don't do that unless you're doing that on purpose, unless you're
Or
trying to
Curtain Call
remind
Part
people.
Two. Yeah.
Exactly. You only do that if you're trying to remind people that you used to be a different thing. And this again is another record just talking about, it's very navel gazy, just talking about who I used to be and what that is compared to now. And you just don't need to do that if you're Eminem. There's no reason to do this. So it's just so in order to sell it as if it needs to exist, what he's done here is tried to sell it as something that is still culturally relevant, which I'm going to say it is not Eminem. It is not. So he's thinking like in order for this whole story about Slim Shady to like returning in the year of 2024 to actually work, to have any sort of emotional stakes for the listener, is if we actually believe that a character who says stuff like Slim Shady did would actually get canceled. That there would be actually news stories about it. There would actually be a boycott. That Gen Z's kids would be out there being like, oh, he's too much. If there was an actual controversy. But guess what? There isn't. There is no such controversy about this record. There's going to be no boycott. Nobody is talking about this except for people who still listen to Eminem records and people like us who are fascinated or somehow drawn to the idea that he's trying again. So
I want to
the
say that this
stakes are just
record.
non-existent. They just don't exist. He's making up stakes that don't exist, and thus there are no emotional stakes. And thus, by the end of the record, you're like, well, nothing happened.
How much of this do you want to say is when he appeared on the Super Bowl 2 years ago that this process started of writing another album?
I mean, yeah, but there was no story after that. It was just like, oh, Eminem's here.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna say
the
that was two
thing.
years ago.
Every time he pops up, it's literally just, oh, Eminem is here. We for like the controversy and when he was like a polarizing figure and when he was like this problem to be solved and when parental groups were after him. That was over 20 years ago. It doesn't feel relevant. It's not urgent anymore. He likes to pretend it is, but it's just not. No one is out here being like, oh God, that Eminem. It's just not, it's just he's created this world that he wants to live in, I guess, where he still thinks that he is a controversial figure when it's just not true. And that's why records like this just don't work.
Well, he may not be any more controversy, but it would still feel empty without M.
That's again though. It just wouldn't. It just wouldn't. I don't know. It just doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me. He doesn't need to keep doing this. It's just that he keeps himself up at night thinking about this kind of things, and he needs to make music about it. That is literally the only reason why this exists. But I guess if it sells, and I guess it works because this is going to be number one next week, and it's going to be the thing that dethrones Taylor Swift.
You think this is the thing that's going to dethrone Taylor
It's
Swift?
already tracking 218,000 listeners. It's not, there's not a chance for Taylor.
Okay. So the death of Taylor Swift's record then.
Hey, the old one, yeah, the old one is dead. She
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah. Yeah. The old Taylor's dead. Slim Shady's dead. Time to get into the 2020s here.
I guess so. Let's return back to 2024.
All right. Uh, did you listen to anything else?
I already mentioned the Zach Bryan record.
Yep.
Trying to think. I listened to Claro and it was good, but I mean, I don't need to talk about it that much.
All right. Then let's move in to video games. And we start
Yes.
with new releases, including Coup, Ancient Seal for the PC. I don't believe this is an actual seal, but rather
Yeah.
a seal.
Yeah.
Uh, Angerfoot by the PC. Parasol Stars, the story of Bubble Bobble 3 for everything. Wide release. You got it. You can play it. We also have Princess Maker 2 Regeneration for the Switch and the PC. And lastly, Once Human by on the PC. I'll
Which
say
my
twice
question
bitten,
is,
but
it, my question about Once Human, is this a prequel to Two Human?
you mean Detroit Become Human?
No, no, Two Human. No one else remember Two Human? Anybody? No? Okay.
I remember Human by the Killers. I don't think
Anyway,
it falls this.
no.
All right, let's get to some video games, news, and three little quick bits here, little bite-sized bits on a platter. And we start with The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Yes, it's still coming out. Yes, it's that game where you can play as Zelda.
Yeah.
But apparently, Link will also be a playable character in the game.
Yeah, this is according to an ESRB ratings listing that was added to their website. When they do ratings, they have to list a synopsis of the game and what occurs in it in order to like make the rating make sense. And I guess in that description, it says that Link is a playable character and that he uses his classic weapons, the sword and the bow and arrow. Which, of course, if you saw the trailer for Echoes of Wisdom, is weird because the thing about this game was supposed to be playing as Zelda and cloning items in the environment to solve puzzles and perform combat. So this does kind of like show a little too many cards, I think, before release. I think if we had waited until you played the game and then realized sometimes you play Link, I feel like that would have been a really cool reveal. But oh well, too late now. Thanks, our ESRB.
I mean, how much is it just you play as Link in the beginning and then switches to
Hmm.
Zelda?
That would make some sense, and maybe that's what they're gonna do because even the trailer is kind of set up like that.
Yeah, that's how I like understood it, is that Zelda, once again captured, is saved by Link, but then
Hmm.
Link gets whisked away,
Right.
and then you're left with Zelda to find Link.
I hope that's all it is because yeah, I think a lot of people were a little worried by this and like thinking like, oh well, there goes the Zelda game. Like the one game that you could play as Zelda is getting taken away by the man again. But I don't know. We'll see. Jury's still out.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like that's how they're going to set it up. It's like, oh, it's just like a regular Zelda game where you're playing as Link. And then 5 minutes into it, you're like, nope, he's gone.
Maybe.
All right. Speaking well, nope, they're gone. Developer Pocket Pair, the guys behind Pal World. No, don't worry. They're not gone. They're not closing studio. In fact, they've made a partnership with not Microsoft. Yep, they've gone across the way to Sony to form a new joint venture to expand and develop businesses based on its hit survival game, Pal World.
Yes. Important to note here that this is not Sony Interactive Entertainment. This is not the video game division. It's actually their film division, suggesting that they would use Sony to make television or movies based on the Pal World franchise. So this has nothing to do with Sony being involved directly into the development of the video game Pal World. Um, so yeah, this is them trying to make a Pokemon extended style extended media universe of Pal World stuff, which makes sense. If you have a lot of characters, you could market those characters. You could make toys, games, accessories. Like I said, video, movies or TV shows. There's stuff that they can do here with Pal World, and they saw an opportunity. But the question I field to you is it too late? Do you think they missed when the iron was hottest for Pal World, or do you still think that enough people care about Pal World that they would be interested in something like this?
To be fair, the hottest of the iron was 6 months ago, 7 months
Yes.
ago, at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you might see something like Minecraft or FNAF where it's hot, you think it's going away, then it comes back and it
Right.
stays and it never goes away, and then it's everywhere, and then the next kid's one, and then the next kid's one, and then it's next thing you know, it's birthdays surrounding all around Power World, and they're knocking on the door of, well, no, okay, let's not be real. They're not going to knock down the door of Pokemon anytime soon.
No. No.
No.
But yeah, and maybe making media about Pal World is another way to get people back into Pal World. Maybe it's just like a mutual beneficial kind of cycle that they're going for here by putting the Pal World characters in all sorts of places. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like that's what's mostly going to be, especially if you're developing and expanding it outside of the video game itself. This
Yeah.
doesn't mean Power World 2 is coming out soon. In fact, I don't think Power World got even a proper release, right? It's still in
It's
alpha,
still in
beta,
early access, I
early
believe. Yes.
access. Yeah. Just like Hades 2. Just a reminder.
Yes.
All right. And then lastly, in video game news, not to be outdone, Microsoft is in the news today. Hey, look at that. We got a little Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft in the
Yeah.
news. The big
Didn't even do
three.
that on purpose.
I'm sure you didn't, because this is a bad Microsoft story. While the other two were good and positive, this one is not. But what do you expect from Microsoft? Money. And what Microsoft want to do? Raise the price of Game Pass.
Yes.
But don't worry, they're going to introduce a new tier subscription. But
Yeah.
do worry, because it's not going to include day one releases.
So yeah, so this was late breaking news that was actually happening while we were recording last week. I didn't include it because the other story was bigger. But we do have to address it because it is a big deal. It sounds on paper like nothing is changing. That people, and for the most part, if you're subscribing to the highest tier of Game Pass Ultimate, nothing changes for you except for the price. Price does go up to $20 a month, $19.99 a month. Also, if you're an annual subscriber, that price also goes up accordingly. And that experience doesn't change. You are paying more, but you're getting the same experience, which means when Microsoft Game Studios puts out a game, you will get that on your Game Pass day one. None of your games existing right now go away right away. Of course, some do just elapse when deals expire. But yeah, so your experience doesn't change. You just have to pay a little bit more. The new tier that they're introducing is the confusingly titled Xbox Game Pass Standard. I want to note that Xbox Game Pass Standard is different from what they offer called Xbox Game Pass Core. Neither are Ultimate, but they are two different things. You may think, wait, Standard and Core sound like the same thing, but you would be wrong. So what
Well,
Standard is,
at least they didn't go with basic, because standard and
right?
basic would have been the same
Basic.
thing.
So yeah, so what Standard is one, it is for people who do not currently have a Game Pass subscription. That is important to note. Two, if you do have it, what it gets you is everything that you get in Ultimate except for day one games. Oh, sorry, my this browser just auto played the audio on this ad, and I don't know how to turn it on, turn it off. I don't know why this is happening. Sorry, I'm muting site. There we go. That was annoying. Anyway, so yeah, everything you get everything with Ultimate except for day one games. There will be, I guess, a delay of some sort of amount of time between day one release and when those games arrive on Game Pass Standard. They have not confirmed how long that wait will be. But you do save a few dollars a month. I believe it's $14.99 for that plan a month.
I
Core is
believe that was previously the ultimate
it
price
was
tier,
yeah, it used to
14.99.
that used to be the ultimate price. Right now it's $16.99 a month. That's what I pay.
Yep.
But anyway, Core is the one that has fewer games. That has only like less than 100 games, and it does not have day one, and it also doesn't include PC Game Pass. It is separate. Also, yes, PC Game Pass remains a separate thing that if you don't have Ultimate, you don't have access to. If you're a PC player, you can just do PC Pass. If you have both, like I do, Ultimate's the only option for both.
And it
Oh
sounds like
yeah,
Ultimate's the only option for day one releases as well.
correct. So all of this is to say that they've muddied the water. It is so complicated now to figure out what Game Pass you should get that they almost should, it almost to the point where they need maybe a quiz for people who like are buying Game Pass to find out which Game Pass is right for them. Like it's gonna be like buying a car at this point, trying to figure out which package that you want, which bells and whistles you need, and how much money you're willing to spend. It's taken something that used to be very simple, you have it, Game Pass or you don't, and made it overly complicated.
Yeah, and hey, that's Microsoft for you. If it wasn't complicated, it wouldn't be Microsoft.
I guess so. I don't know. It also means that I guess they're less worried about Game Pass being marketed as you can play this day one on Game Pass, which used to be their whole marketing thing. Now their statement is going to be have to have that asterisk on the bottom of the screen, and that's going to have to list day one on Game Pass Ultimate. There will be like it will eventually come to after a period of time come to Game Pass Standard. It's going to be a nightmare for them to message this stuff now, but they've done it to themselves.
Well, they did it so they spent $140 billion over 4 years acquiring companies.
Yeah, all for this. But anyway,
Anyways, let's talk about an even bigger company.
why not?
Why not? Because all hail the king, it has finally returned. No, I'm not making a Lord of the Rings reference, although we are in search of the one ring in this game, the one championship ring, because it's here. Well, if you paid for the 3-day early access, EA College Sports Football 25. 10 years have we long been waiting since NCAA 14, when you could play as a college team, when you could play against the rival schools, the rivalry, the sights, the sounds, the impact, the audacity to pay these players what they're worth. Oh my God, has it been so long? All right. I'm gonna be real brief on this because I've only played one game mode and one game mode only. Road to Glory.
Yeah.
The creative player Heisman watch, basically your own avatar in college football, which you can then move on into Madden 25 when that releases next month. So I streamed some of it last night. Someone awesome went to college to get more knowledge and play some football here and there, but focusing on that GPA because you got to have an education.
You gotta.
But at the same time, I'm having a bit, fun with it. It feels very smooth, feels very clean. I haven't felt a whole lot of bugs so far. I did occur one where I was in the middle of overtime, and then halfway through overtime, it went, oh, wait, we forgot to do the overtime coin toss and setting. So it like reverted back to it and like showed the images for it, but then continued on. I was like, oh, that was weird. But that's the only problem I've seen with it so far. I haven't touched any of the ultimate stuff or the dynasty mode, which I want to
Mhm.
get into, but that's one thing that I've noticed about this game is that they packed a lot into it. They've
Yeah.
kept us starving, and are we hungry? And boy, are we feasting.
And that is the reaction I've seen across the board. Everybody who is really looking forward to this has been shocked with how much game is in here. I think the assumption we made is, oh, well, it's a new version of this. We haven't seen one in over a decade. And also, Madden this generation has not been stellar. It's been like okay, but it's been like workman-like in its okayness. Like they just give you just enough. They give you the modes you expect, but nothing more, nothing less. And so people are playing this and being like, wait a minute, where is this passion for the Madden franchise? Where did all this come from, EA? You packed every mode that we wanted, you made it look good, you made it
Mhm.
play well, and where's the catch?
Like they focused on the details for each skull of the big conferences, all of the like rituals, pregame rituals, all the chants. Although I will say a lot of those students don't look too drunk to me. So maybe you can work on that. So you're making some rowdy. I've yet to have the storm the field, even though I did upset number one Michigan, and they did not storm the field at home, and I was pissed that they didn't. But oh well, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that bad criticism is that when you beat a top team on your home field, you want to see the celebration. You want to see the dominance. Like it's cool to see your character be like MVP or like player of the game. Like that's nice to see with all your stat lines. But to not have the bum rush, to not have the victory cheers and chants, especially against either a school rival or like I said, the number one or number two seeded team or ranked team, that it feels like it's missing just like that much of it. But then again, you have to animate everyone climbing over everything, jumping around. Yeah, enjoy the ensuing chaos, ripping up goalposts, taking them to the river, tossing them in there, destroying, vandalizing the entire stadium, only for it to be rebuilt the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the true college
The college
experience.
experience. Yeah, I mean, I guess it must have been they had a team there that really wanted that was passionate about making one of these, and they did make one of these. Like you remember it. It is just weird in 2024 to get that.
I think one thing I noted from I think it was a news outlet that because this game is on the current gen systems of PS5 and Xbox Series X and S only, there is no backwards gen on it, that it allowed the developers to focus on the graphics, to focus on the
Mhm.
gameplay, that they didn't have to worry about, well, we're limited by the previous gen hardware because we have to make this gameplay on both systems. So I think that's why there's a lot of renewal kind of excitement for this game, which ultimately leads to a lot of hope and excitement for Madden 25, when that is also the same thing of being a current gen system
Yeah.
only.
You would hope that this is them that their whole team, well, both of the football game teams had the same kind of passion and commitment. Because yeah, if Madden comes out and it's not as full featured as this, I think everybody would be like, why bother? Just play the college football game. It'll be interesting.
It'll really be interesting when it comes out next month as we get into it, especially like you said, they always release a month before the actual season starts,
Yeah.
just to, get the hype in, get the preseason in. Then when it comes around, it's like, hey, by the way, you can play as these players. NIL deals, play as your favorite players, play as your favorite team, which we will definitely see a lot of hyping about coming into the college season and
Yep.
NFL season.
Yep.
But I'm having a fun time with it.
Mhm.
You watched me stream some of it last
Just
night.
briefly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, really clean. I liked all the things that they're doing, especially with the running back, because
Yeah.
that's what I'm playing as.
Yeah.
Um, I do like, however, one of my like little details like this where you can like it'll the coach will call a play, but you also have the option to ignore it and pick your own play, and you can do that perfectly fine. But then your coach will get mad at you
Yeah,
just a little bit, and
I
he'll
saw the
take you out the
coach.
next play.
Yeah, I saw coach trust being
Yeah.
a stat that it was tracking. I was like, oh, I see. It's
He was
neat.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the coach trusts me," and also the coach hates me when I change the play for me, and he yanks me out and benches me in the fourth quarter.
Right. Well, what are you gonna
What I'm going to
do?
do is I'm going to then replay that game and make sure I hit my 100-yard total.
Yeah. You need to prove that you're smarter than he is and you know what's best.
I know that you give me the rock, hand me the ball, establish the run game. But yeah, I'll be
Anyways,
playing a lot more of it this upcoming
cool.
week. I'll probably see if I can get someone over to play head to head or online
Nice. Yeah.
feature. But yeah, one thing I did notice immediately was that it said EA servers are having issues. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are pre-ordering this game
I bet a lot
and
of
are playing
people.
it these first
Yeah.
couple days
Oh, yeah, easily.
easily. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Cool. That's
And
good
I
to
look forward
hear.
to streaming more of it on twitch.tv/MediaBoat.
Media boat. Yes. See him there.
Come watch someone awesome.
Yes. In the meantime, besides that, I've only been playing more Zenless Zone Zero, skipped a couple of days, but then went right back to it. Still doing that grind to 34, which has taken forever. Almost there though.
All right. Well, then let's move on then out of video games and
Yes.
into television.
And we always start television with the sports corner. And actually, from now on, it's yours. I am
You
giving you this sports corner section because you write it and you have the context for what you're talking about. So I will respond and I will take over when the television section proper starts. But I will let you do this because the going back and forth does not make good podcasts.
not for the sports section because
Yeah.
we have a lot of cups to give out.
Right.
We have a lot of
Yes.
winners to give out, including Argentina with a broken ankle of Messi winning the Copa America Cup,
Yeah.
and with the fans destroying the Miami Hard Rock Stadium in the process.
Yes, I saw that. But generally, beside that, though, generally speaking, I saw a lot of people react that to be happy that this weekend, with all of its tumult here, we
Mhm.
were saved by having a lot of stuff of interest happening overseas. There was a lot of fun soccer to watch for people who are soccer fans. That kind of distracted from a lot of the stuff, from a lot of political stuff here.
I like how you think that Miami is considered overseas.
You know what I said besides that. But honestly, I've been there and it's Cuba too. Who are we kidding?
There's the stadium is in Miami on the mainland side, not on the island side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
Although, you just move it like about 10 miles over.
yeah. I've taken the tour right there and the boat tour. Anyway.
Anyways, yes, speaking of other winners, Spain has won the Euro Cup
Yep.
of soccer.
Yes.
But Spain was not done celebrating as their homegrown hero, Carlos Alcaraz, repeats as champion at Wimbledon this past week, claiming this title over Novak Djokovic.
Right.
So, good time to be a Spain fan.
Sounds like it.
Meanwhile, on the women's side for Wimbledon, 31 seed Barbo Barbora Krejcikova,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
huh?
Uh-huh.
Krejcikova. I think
Okay.
I got that right.
Krejcikova, maybe?
Maybe. Where's our resident Polish fan?
Yeah, I know. Let's call him in.
Yep. Uh, she beat Jasmine Paolini to take the women's title.
All right.
If you're wondering where the top seeds are, the names you normally see up here, sorry, they lost at Wimbledon because of grass, but also because the Olympics are coming up, and you have to prepare for those.
And when are those Paris Olympics?
Those Paris Olympics are exactly 10 days away as of this recording.
Yes.
20 days. Get out of here. We're going to, as of tomorrow,
Yep.
we are in single digits counting down to the
Yes.
start of the Olympic Games.
As a PSA for people who are members of Peacock, I wanted to let everybody know that you can actually get a sneak preview of the schedule right now if you go onto your Peacock app. Last night I checked this out. They have a really good system where you pick the sport that you want to see, and it shows you when the live events will take place streaming on Peacock. So, for example, I took a look at where the archery starts. So it starts the
Mhm.
second day at 5 in the morning. So
Oh,
if
I'll
you
be up.
really, yeah, if you really care about watching these events live from Paris, Peacock's got you, and you can make your schedule, make your little calendar right now because it gives you a little preview. Also, for certain events like swimming and track and even skateboarding, some of the qualifiers, they actually have them recorded and you can see them on demand on Peacock on that sport page as well. So if you want to see kind of the road to these live events before they happen, prepare, get yourself in the Olympic moods. You don't have to have DVR'd it on NBC 2 weeks ago. You can catch them on Peacock. They've saved a lot of that stuff. So perfect for the person who wants to prepare. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. Though I do want to say I don't think that they fulfilled your wish of multi screen presentations. I do not know if there's any
I
way
do not
to
think so.
view multiple events. I think you're stuck to one at a time. And also, it's unclear whether or not these will all be simulcast on the cable networks that will also be showing this. Obviously, a lot of those are delayed for time reasons. A lot of them
Mhm.
are delayed specifically for prime time for the primetime NBC show. So it really depends on how you want to engage with your Olympics. Do you want to watch everything live while it's happening, or are you happy with getting it fed to you whenever the networks feel like it's necessary? And then last but not least, the opening ceremonies will be happening at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time on the 26th. So you can watch them live, which I don't think I've ever watched one live because they've always been in a different time zone, and I've always just waited for the NBC primetime presentation. But now, for the first time, I can watch it live while it's happening, which is kind of neat. So
You
thank
didn't
you,
watch
Peacock.
the 2008 Beijing ones live?
I don't think I did. I don't know. I
It
don't
was a
recall. I think,
12-hour difference. So, yeah, it would be like
yeah.
7 a.m. here,
But yeah,
6 a.m. here, local time.
I think I always waited for the prime time because it was like, oh, this is the event here in the US. It's like this is when everybody watches it. So I don't know, but it's neat to have that as an option for everybody.
All right. But yeah, just a little reminder for how the Olympics are set up. We'll talk about it next week too, but
Mhm.
it's always the swimming events before the track and field
Right.
events.
Yes. It's swimming first, track second. Yeah.
Yep, and they'll will be swimming in the Seine River. At least that's what they
Yes.
say.
That's at least what they say. We watched a video about this, Christy and I, where they were talking about whether or not this actually should or will happen. Fascinating.
I assume they have a backup stage
Yeah,
because
they do say
there
they have backup plans.
if there's one thing uh the city of Paris is known for, it's revolutions and well, the Eiffel Tower, I guess. But aside from that, it's revolutions and making a stink when necessary. And
Mhm.
technically, the scene is public domain.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to say, let things float down the river while they're swimming, there may be a website to track this kind of thing and when you can
Yeah.
do stuff.
Yeah, maybe check out beforehand whether or not you want
Yes.
to take a dip in there.
Well, to be fair, the mayor of Paris has said that she would swim in the scene to prove how
Yes.
safe it is.
I think that she has since retracted that statement or at least walked it back a little bit.
Well, I believe she said that she will do it after the Olympians do it.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Well, as we get ready for the Paris Olympics, is the dull drum days of summer, which means no sports are happening except for baseball. And we have the
Yes.
MLB draft happening, and we have a new number one overall pick,
Yep.
courtesy of the Baltimore Orioles, as they chose second baseman Travis Bazana to join their team.
Yep. Yeah,
So
quite a moment.
congratulations out of Oregon. You didn't win a national championship, but you became the number one overall pick. In other leagues, and one other bit of news around the league, the A's have done something not seen in 25 years. And don't worry, it's not a losing streak. In fact, it's the opposite.
Been there, done that.
They've hit 8 home runs in a game, the most since 1999. For context, the record is 11 games hit by the Blue Jays in 1987.
Wow.
So they're still 3 shy of tying the overall record, but yeah, 8 home runs in a game.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But you had to watch the A's play.
The A's are weird like that though this season. It's like they'll lose a lot and then there'll be 1 or 2 games or a series in the case of the Angels where they just go off and you're like, where did these A's come from? What's happening? And so yeah, that like up and downness means that they've been really unpredictable.
Yep. Speaking of unpredictability, it's the All-Star weekend currently
Yes, it
happening.
is.
And boy, is it unpredictable as the started off with a doozy. And I'm not talking about the home runs.
Right.
Performer and country music artist Ingrid Andress
Yes.
performed the national anthem
Yeah.
very weirdly, and only
Yeah.
today, the day after, come out and say that she was intoxicated while
Yes.
performing and has checked herself into a facility.
So yeah, she didn't. A lot of people were like, "Who is this lady? Where does she come from?" She's not a super mainstream country artist, but what she is a prolific songwriter. If you actually look at her credits, she's written some big hits. The catch is that yeah, I guess that she has an issue right now that she says now, as of today, like you mentioned, she is addressing. She will be going to rehab. And yeah, I immediately like clocked as soon as like she got towards the end of it. It was like, she sounds drunk. Like, what is going on here? And sure enough, that was the case. I don't necessarily think it was as terrible as a lot of people think it was. I also don't necessarily think it was disrespectful, like maybe some people said. That being said, she's working on herself, and I'm glad that she's checking her in, and I'm glad that she was at least aware. And if this moment taught her anything, then that's a good lesson to learn. And I think that hey, maybe it will benefit her going forward. But also, it's just the anthem at the home run derby, guys. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it too
it's
much.
not like the national anthem at a actual.
Yeah.
Well, it is an actual. It's an exhibition.
You're right. But it's not something like it's not a presidential inauguration. It's not like it's not the Olympics. Like it's not like, there's a lot of bigger things that this could be. And this is not that. The home run
Right,
derby
but
is
because it
literally
is the home run derby, it
right.
happens when there are no other sports occurring during this
Right.
time.
Yeah, the home run derby is literally something that they change the rules of every year. Speaking
About
of
every 5
which,
years.
yeah, speaking
Speaking
of
of
which,
which, they
the derby.
changed the rules this past week.
And I will say, after watching the whole thing, absolutely for the better, because it
Yep.
created a really awesome final moment that felt close and would not have been able to be recreated if it was on a time limit. That 3-out system, I think, really works.
Yeah, gone are the 40 pitches that everyone gets. Gone are the 42 home run record setting hits from last
Right.
home run derby. But also because of it, you have some of the favorites like the polar bear himself
Yeah.
being eliminated in the first round.
Right. Pete Alonso
Alonso.
just couldn't get
Pete
something
Alonso
going.
just nope.
Even Alec
Uh
Boehm, who had the lead through the first half, like just fizzled out in the semis. It was crazy to watch these people drop like flies.
yeah, but in the end, a Dodger did win the home run derby.
Yes.
And it wasn't Shohei Ohtani.
No.
You're right, because it wasn't Mookie Betts either. Uh, and it wasn't Seager either.
No.
No, it was a Teoscar Hernandez
Yes. Teoscar
from the Dodgers
Hernandez.
winning.
Continuing, honestly, a season where he just can't stop doing interesting things. He's like one of the most talked about Dodgers right now over the course of the season, just because he keeps surprising people and keeps being consistent. And here's another big surprise, winning the home run derby, just narrowly, as Bobby Witt Jr. had a chance, had a beautiful couple of last home runs that almost got him tied up at the end there in the final and just Couldn't get that last one.
That's what they say. Game of inches. You move
Mhm.
it forward, you move it backwards, you miss it just
It
by
was
that
at the
much.
it was at the bullpen, the lowest part that the fence could even be, and it missed it by a foot. Incredible.
Exciting. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what the home run derby needs. Excitement.
Yes.
That you want to see them not only compete against each other, but compete against like the excitement of what a home run is.
Yeah.
Although I will say they're still missing the big names.
Right.
No Stanton, no Otani, no Betts,
No
no
Judge.
Judge.
But the thing is that you know why. We've talked about it on the show before. You know why
It
they're doing it.
ruins
It's
the
because the coach is
swing.
like,
Yep.
we need you. We cannot lose your swing. We saw what happened to Otani a couple of years ago, and we don't. And I feel like everybody took notes and be like, okay, don't want to take any huge risks. Teoscar's an interesting guy. He's young. He's younger than a lot of the bigger names on that team. And so I feel like they felt like, yeah, let him do this thing. Why not? He's not the biggest piece of the puzzle that we could lose. And I think that's the case for all these guys. Like
Mm-hmm.
Alec Baldwin was here, not Bryce Harper. Like obviously Bryce Harper got hurt, but you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
like, so yeah.
I mean, yeah, Vlad Jr., last year's home run derby winner,
Mm-hmm.
not in here.
Also not there. He was just there being like friend to everybody and chatting up to Oscar and like talking to everybody, being just like relaxing the whole time.
That's what you do when you're a
Yeah.
cover athlete.
He
You
was the
don't need to prove
vibe.
yourself anymore.
I was like, honestly, I was just like, man, I just want to like live his life today. Just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm everybody's friend.
Well, that's what his dad did every single time at the home run derby too.
That is true. That is true. So
All
yeah,
right. So congratulations.
fun.
Now there's an actual baseball game to play.
In fact, it's happening right now.
Yes, it is. The American League versus the National League for the honor of I believe the winner gets home field advantage in the World Series.
Hmm. I think
And
that's
we
still.
huh?
I think that's still the case. Yeah.
I believe it's still the case that they still have something. At least there's something to play for. It's 0-0.
Yep. I
To
just
be
checked.
expected because there's some two great starting pitchers.
Yes.
First up, Corbin Burns of the aforementioned Baltimore Orioles, getting the start against a rookie, but not just any rookie, the rookie,
Mm.
the former number one pick, the Mustachio Furioso himself, Paul Skeens of the
Yeah, Paul
Pittsburgh
Skeens,
Pirates.
who just
Skeens,
continues to
Skeens, Skeens.
yeah, exactly. Skeens. Yeah, he's just made quite a name for himself this season. I think he has a really tight grip on that rookie of the year. We'll see ultimately, but it could be
He's only
possible.
played 11
He's only
games
played 11
in his
starts and they're already
entire
putting him in.
career.
And he's already starting the All-Star game. So it's, yeah, this goes to show you this is the kind of guy we're talking about here. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the last time there was this much hype was when Otani was starting pitcher, starting hitter
right.
a couple of
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. Good for him.
But yeah, um, that's baseball because that's the only thing going on right now.
Um, you don't have anything else for sports, but I do want to mention, are you going to talk about the ESPYs? We have not talked about that.
Because I have not watched the ESPYs. I'll be watching them on
Ah,
Wednesday when they should be airing.
okay. Yes, I didn't know. I thought they already happened. I thought it was Thursday for some reason.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
it did
you are
air.
waiting on purpose to watch it
I
on
am
what you
waiting on
deem the
purpose.
correct day.
Yes, I
Got
don't.
it. Okay.
I'm not going to watch this early Thursday nonsense. No,
Yeah.
it always occurs the day after the All Star game, which is why I don't have the ESPYs on here.
Got it. Fair enough. All right. Anything else in sports that we need to cover before we move on to television?
Starting next week, rookie training camp for the NFL.
Nice.
So
Okay.
get those rookie drafts going
Also,
for your
in
dynasty
case
teams.
you're on Mike Trout watch, there seems to be good things happening with his rehab, and there's a possibility that we might see him before September. That is the
Now,
word
is
I hear.
this old Mike Trout or new Mike Trout?
Same Mike Trout.
No, because there's a new Mike Trout. Welcome to his family last
Oh,
week.
his first name is Jordy, middle name Michael, but yes, they did
Still a
welcome their
Mike.
second child this past week. So congratulations to the Trouts. All right. let's move on then into some television, and we'll start television with some layoff news, unfortunately.
Cruel summer.
Yeah, a very cruel summer if you are in Warner Brothers Discovery's aim and a line of sight, because they are making more cuts this week as part of another round of cost-cutting measures. It comes a year after a round of layoffs that led to the departure of a number of network executives in its cable business. This comes a week after around 100 people were laid off at the news network CNN last week. Paramount is also expected to make more layoffs as part of its cost-cutting measures, a move that comes after it already cut around 800 people early this year. We talked a little bit about last week that these measures were to make the Skydance deal make more sense for
Mm-hmm.
the books. Disney also is not to be left out of this and is expected to make more cuts themselves over the coming months. So the industry, the entertainment industry, looks just like the tech industry did last year, where it's just cut after cut after cut.
Yep, they just keep getting thinner. A lot of these are on the production side, so do expect less to come out of these studios over the coming years.
Yeah.
That being said, whenever we do see cuts like this, it also coincides with room for new, fresh blood to come in with fresh new ideas and maybe a new way of thinking within it. At least that's what I'm being told at the top of
That's such
how
a
why
oh, that's such a funny joke you just told. That's hilarious. Where did you learn that? At a company retreat?
from David Zaslav himself in his keynote address.
Wow,
I
amazing.
mean, why would he ever
Why would he lie? Why would he
why
lie
would
to
he
you?
lie?
I don't know. Anyway,
No,
so yeah.
expect the same old, same old.
Oh yeah, no, same. It's
Ugh,
just gonna get worse. It's race to the bottom, baby. It's all
it
for the
is.
money. You got to give those shareholders money. All
Where's my
right.
shirt? It's a business.
Yeah, it's a business. We are in the business of watching television, and you watched two shows this week.
I'll be brief about one of them on Netflix, Exploding Kittens, because I watched the first episode
Yeah,
and I don't know what it was for. I don't know if I
it's a
liked it.
so it's the animated adaptation of the card game Exploding Kittens.
Yes, where you follow God Cat,
Yes.
which is God turned into a cat, and
Mm,
his mischievous adventures against Beelzebub Cat, Devil Cat.
sure. Yeah.
And it's weird. It's adult animation.
Mm,
I've only seen the first two episodes, so I'm probably get more into it, but it's also very adult heavy oriented. I do like some of the jokes. I do think it's being creative in its
okay.
way,
All
but
right.
then also at the same time leading heavy into the cat puns and the cat tropes and
Yeah.
being a pardon the pun, a catastrophe
Ah.
because they set that up themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did.
Oh, yes, they did. So it's fine for what I've seen so far. Nothing to be like, oh, you got to go watch Exploding Kittens. But
Sure.
also, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
But at least the 30-minute episodes, they're short, they're sweet, they're bingeable in a weekend. I just didn't
Okay.
have time to binge it because something else caught my eye.
All right.
This is on HBO Max called Fantasmas.
Hmm.
It is a compilation of short skits and stories strewn together to make a coherent thing at the end, which I didn't think it was going to do, honestly. I thought it felt like a bunch of one-off gags. There's a bunch of like fantastic people in here. Like Paul Dano's in here, randomly shows up for a skit.
Sure.
Emma Stone's in here, shows up for a skit. Rachel Dratch is in here, shows up for a skit. It's a lot of like weird little innuendos and it feels like one-offs that throughout the very short 6 episodes, because they're all 30 minutes and 6 episodes. So it moves very fast and the jokes are very quick. And they also do a lot of cutaways to random things like
Sure.
toilet water. or just how all water is connected. And Aquariuses have the power to talk to water because they're naturally born with it. Weird stuff like that. Or how a person who works in customer service gets caught up talking to someone else in customer service and sees the vicious cycle that they create. Uh, or a TV show like Alf, where one of the the parents, falls in love with the alien and how that affects their relationship with the kids. It's really weird, random one-off jokes and skits
Yeah,
that feels
what?
like SNL parodies,
Yeah.
but is strewn through a cohesive logic through the narrator in this, talking about their life in this kind of like deco future society. Uh, it's weird. It's kind of offbeat, and I kind of
Oh,
dug it a bit.
okay. All right.
There wasn't enough for me to turn it off, be like, okay, this is just like totally not into me. Like I totally don't get this, but at the same time, it was captivating enough to where I was like, all right, let me see how you pay off this joke. Let me see how you strewn this together.
Yeah.
Like there's one instance where the main character goes to a nightclub and loses an earring, and then goes back the next day to talk to try and find it, only to discover that there's a second nightclub under the DJ booth specifically for hamsters. And one of them has the earring and is using it as part of their clothing. It's awkward, it's offbeat. As I'm describing it, I know it sounds chaotic, but at the end, somehow they all pull together and it's in this really weird, kind of almost beautiful symmetry that, like I said, it's very short, and I think you might be interested in it.
Maybe I'm a little confused about what it is, but yeah, you're right. It's like I guess they do some sort of narration work to fit the pieces together, but otherwise it's pretty much just sketches.
Yeah, like it's like it starts off super weird talking about what they someone pitching a color to create to Crayola or like a crayon company. But get this, the color is clear.
Hmm. This sounds less like a less mean-spirited and less like geek-centric Robot Chicken.
Little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said,
Okay.
it has like SNL skit parodies where it
Yeah.
feels like almost Monty Python-esque, where
Okay. Monty
you'll
Python,
watch
good
something and then
comparison.
they'll make a comment or something will
Right.
appear on the screen, and then it'll be like zoom in, and be like, okay, now we're going to focus on this little side aspect or this side character or story.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, Phantasmas. It's weird. It's kind of
Fantasmas.
wonderful, and
All
I kind of dug it.
right. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's on HBO or Max. I think it's on. I think it
Max.
aired on HBO, but you can watch it on
Ah,
Max now.
makes sense.
Yep. Final episode just watched. They did
Cool.
release some of the clips online of the little skits and sketches. So
Mm.
if you want to watch some of that, see if that might pique your interest of like, what else is there that this is offering? Because the one with Emma Stone is what caught my eye. Like, wait, what is this thing?
Okay. All right. Anything else before we move on?
Uh, I mean, Olympics are around the corner. We're going to be talking about those.
We'll be talking about those. But in the meantime, let's move on to some cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Reginald the Vampire, as it has been canceled after 2 seasons on Sci-Fi.
Uh,
But it's the only cancellation this week, as we got a couple
yep.
of renewals to go through here. Bachelor in Paradise is returning, contrary to not returning in 2024. It will be returning in 2025 for season 10. The ABC has
Is
announced.
Jesse Palmer hosting this now?
He always hosts all of the Bachelor universe shows right now, ever since the last guy left.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it's weird because he's also in one of the announcers of
Yeah.
uh EA Sports, college sports.
Yeah, that's funny.
So when he's announcing the game, I'll be like, oh, wait, I know that voice.
Jesse.
Yes.
He's gonna tell me it's the final rose.
He's gonna make some dad pun because it's holiday
Yeah.
championship.
Oh my God, I have to tell Christy that she would get a kick out of it. Anyway, but yes. Also I'll use this moment to mention The Bachelorette started. So yeah, that's the current season right now that they're on.
Yep.
Next up, Apple TV Plus will be bringing back Presumed Innocent for a second season. So still innocent, turns out.
I want to check this out. Season one is up, and I think it just ended on Apple TV. Stars
Hmm.
Jake Gyllenhaal, courtroom dramas.
Okay, all right.
Sounds up my alley, so I'll
There you
probably
go.
check this one out.
All right. And then also on Apple TV Plus, we have Loot getting a third season.
I still need to watch season two, but good to
Okay.
see there's gonna be a season three.
And then lastly, Netflix will be bringing back Somebody Feed Phil for an eighth season.
That's a traveling cooking show.
Got it. All right. Move on to some deaths. We have 3 deaths. Christy and I were kind of joking. It's like, wow, the 20th century really ended this past week, didn't it? You had a lot of relevant stars from the 80s and 90s, unfortunately, passing this past week. First up, Shelley Duvall, age 75, actress most famous for The Shining, but also in movies such as Nashville and Three Women. Also known by a lot of Gen Xers, older millennials, from the Fairy Time Theater series of HBO shows for kids, in which you can go onto YouTube and find that video where she says, "Hi, I'm Shelley Duvall," over and over and over again. To a certain age, it's a very nostalgic thing, the fairy tale theater. So yeah, Shelley Duvall will definitely be missed, regardless of your age. Then we
Mhm.
also had Richard Simmons, similarly pop culture famous in the 80s and 90s, age 76, a fitness personality. Most people remember him from the Sweatin' to the Oldies tapes that your mother slash aunt maybe have been really into back in the 90s. I know mine
Yep.
was.
It sparks the alt controversy of, did Richard Simmons wear a headband? Yes or
Right.
no?
I'm going to say no. I don't think he did.
Yes, he did not, but most
He
people will
did
say
not.
yes.
Yeah. It's Bernstein Bears kind of situation. I got
Yes.
it. Okay. And then lastly, Shannon Doherty, age 53, very young actress who, of course, made her name on Beverly Hills 90210, was one of the Heathers and Heathers, and of course had a little bit of a career comeback with Charmed. Yeah, definitely a legend of television who will be missed.
Just note that's Heather's the original version, not Heather's the
Correct, not
new
the
MPV movie.
musical. No, no. I'm talking about the original '80s movie. Christy pointed out that that means that all but one Heather remains from the original cast. Or sorry, the opposite. Only one Heather remains out of the original Heathers
Yes.
cast, which is sad. All right, let's move on out of television into the last section for today, which is movies. And we always start the movie section with the weekend box office numbers. And don't worry, the Minions didn't go anywhere. This book will be for continues and number one for a second week in a row, making $44 million this week. It's sitting at 211 million domestic. So it already crossed 200 easy. Number two, Nicolas Cage walks his long ass legs into movie theaters with long legs. It made $22 million in its weird ass debut. We read the synopsis for what that movie's about today, and no thank you. I want no part in this.
Yeah, it's A24 though, which is,
Yeah.
always fun to see. And they always bring out these random horror hits just out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
used to work for him. Then coming at number three, continuing its reign, Inside Out 2 with another $20 million. That's at 572 million domestic, which is incredible. Half a billion already.
I believe it is Pixar's highest grossing film,
Now it is,
adjusted
yes.
for inflation.
Globally, yes.
Yep, globally.
So, yeah, quite a feat. Number four, A Quiet Place Day One with another 11 million. That's at 116. So that's doing pretty well, surprisingly enough.
It hit
So
the
they're
100,
not
so
done
yeah.
making Quiet Place movies.
Especially
They will
because
be.
they may or may not be cheap to make because they're trying to do
Yeah,
more special effects with it.
especially not this one, because this one they have to
Yes.
use a lot of special effects to set up the enemy here. So
Yep.
yeah, still though, they make a lot of money. And then number five, Fly Me to the Moon, with a disappointing $10 million debut, way down at number five. you had a lot of articles with headlines last week saying normal movies done, like our classic dramas done in the theaters. Studios are watching the performance of Fly Me to the Moon to find out. Okay, first of all, no, they're not done. And two, maybe bet on a good movie because this was not it.
What do you mean? It had Channing Tatum and Mrs. Colin Jost.
Yeah, even Scarlett Johansson couldn't save this thing. It looked like it was dead on arrival. I don't think anybody cared about Fly Me to the Moon. So goodbye and good riddance. But don't worry because the movies are back, folks, because there is a hot release this week. You like weather? What about extreme weather? I'm talking Twisters, the sequel to Twister. That is your big release this week. There's also something called My Spy in the Eternal City, but everybody's going to be seeing Twisters.
Hey, if you like Dave Bautista and you want to see the sequel to My Spy,
I didn't.
then My Spy the Eternal City is sitting in a theater for you.
Yeah, and no one else will be in there because they'll all be seeing Twisters.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about Twisters. People seem to be really, really digging Twisters.
Glenn Powell, leading man Glenn Powell, being forced to be a leading man by Hollywood.
Also, if you are part of the weird Venn diagram of Angels fans and people who are excited about the movie Twisters, I recommend a ad that none other than Mike Trout did to sponsor Twisters. Just Google Mike Trout Twisters, you'll find it. It is a beautiful, beautiful 45 seconds. Anyways.
Just enough time for the ad.
Yes. All right, let's move on from the new releases and into movie news. We have a little bit of a follow-up, maybe the last time we talk about the story, but I'm not sure. Hopefully, will be the last time we talk about the story.
There may be one more follow-up, but we'll get to why.
So, the trial for Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter case, that stemmed from the shooting that occurred on the set of the movie Rust, is finally wrapped up. It was dismissed Friday over, quote, critical evidence, unquote, that a New Mexico judge ruled had been concealed. Quote, the state is highly culpable for its failure to provide discovery to the defendant. Judge Sommer added in a measured tone. Continuing, dismissal with prejudice is warranted, she concluded. The decision by Sommer on Friday could also mean the release of incarcerated Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed from New Mexico State Prison. She was previously found guilty and sentenced. Unlike, there has not been a sentencing for Alec Baldwin yet because the case was dismissed. That would have determined that.
This was a part of that case that was going to trial. They had a jury selected. It was in motion. And during discovery, Alec Baldwin's $1 million lawyers found that the New Mexico district attorney withheld evidence because they did not deem it pertinent to the case. What was this evidence they withheld? A box of ammunition given to the police by the same person who gave the armorer the same box of bullets on the set of Rust. And they dismissed it, saying that these bullets were not the same as the ones picked up.
Okay.
Except upon inspection of the photo, there were several bullets, not all bullets, but several bullets within the police custody from this box of ammo that did match what was discovered at the scene of the crime.
Okay.
So this case has been dismissed with prejudice, which means Alec Baldwin cannot be tried again for manslaughter on this shooting. He could be tried for something else, but there's very little else he could be tried for here.
Yeah. So this will likely be, the end of that side of the story. But yeah, you're right. There could be something that pops up at some point, kind of like in cleanup here. But generally speaking, there's not much more that can be said.
Well, the cleanup would be for the Rust Armorer, Hannah
Yeah.
Gutierrez Reed, to get a retrial or released based on this decision.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see if that takes
And
place.
because of that ginormous fuck up, it seems like no one will be held accountable for
Right.
the unfortunate
Yeah.
death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the downside here is that while it does resolve a lot of it, the one thing it doesn't resolve is that yeah, someone lost their life and there is no justice being done here. And yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. But oh boy, what a long road to get here. It's been exhausting.
And I mean, it's a long road to get here, but all to be undone by
Yeah.
a
Hmm.
gigantic. I mean, it's a fuck up
Hmm.
on the DA's part. It's
Yeah.
not a lapse of judgment. It's
Yeah.
purposely withholding evidence
Right.
which you're supposed to give to to the defendant during
Yep.
discovery, and you
It's
withheld this on
yeah.
purpose
It's
because
frustrating.
it made your case stronger, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. But what are we to say? We're not lawyers, unless
Yep.
the
Like, no,
yeah, I was gonna say
in
unless
another
the like
life, I feel like
yeah, unless that there was some sort of like a season 10 twist in the Media Boat podcast where we both go to law school. I don't think that's gonna happen. So
no, this is a
unless
23 Jump Street.
yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, that'll do it then. That's it for movies, unless we watched any movies.
Nope, I did not.
No. Well, that means we can safely wrap up the show. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Media Boat Podcast. We'll be back for episode 445 next week. Not as fun, just doesn't have the same ring to it. But we will have a lot more to talk about, a lot more stuff to discuss and explore. That'll be yeah, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, look forward to that. If you want to see it in video form, you can see it on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel and search Media Boat Podcast to find our channel. Like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications when new videos go live. You can also find us in audio form on podcast services such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Just search Media Boat in your catcher of choice. You can also find us on the internet in myriad places, including social media sites like Twitter/X, where we're at MediaBoatCast. Facebook, search MediaBoat. Twitch.tv/MediaBoat is where you can catch Mike playing some college football 25. And MediaBoatPodcast.com is our website where you can see an archive of our shows. Last but certainly not least, if you have questions, comments, want to give us advice about which plays to run in college football, I don't know. Whatever you want to tell us, you can email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. And that'll do it. See you guys next week. In the meantime, we're done
We'll be
here. Have a
back
good one.
next week with some more college football highlights, and maybe talking about that new Childish Gambino album and movie
Maybe. Who knows?
next time.
All right. See you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.